That's the worst possible. That's the worst possible response to that accusation. Republican AGs used your work in order to craft policy. They used your work in order to craft policy. Well, after they crafted policy at some of the highest levels of government, I released a Substack titled "Come On" by Jesse Singal. Are you out of your fucking mind?
I'm glad that you did a Substack post. In fact, that same...
So I was basically just like crawling through YouTube for content and found this video, right, that people were referencing over and over and over again in this ongoing meme I keep hearing about, that Sam Seder, the longtime host of the Majority Report, I think he was on Air America back in the day. There's a meme that's been going on around him that I've been hearing more and more, especially from people that wear beanies, and that is that he is somehow bad faith, right? It's bad faith. Oh, bad faith. Sam Seder is always, he's routinely bad faith, bad faith, bad faith, bad faith. Which we should just go ahead and bring up what the fuck bad faith even fucking means, right? So that we can just establish this ahead of time. I want to watch this video to see if he's really being bad faith. Cato Institute says bad faith. A bad faith discussion is one in which one or both of the parties has a hidden, unrevealed agenda. Basically, yeah. Often to dominate or coerce the other individual into compliance or acquiescence of some sort, or lacks basic respect for the rights, dignity, or autonomy of the other party. Disrespect for the other party might include dishonesty. A person engaged in bad faith does not accept the other person as they are, but demands that they change in order to satisfy their requirements or to accept their will. Bad faith discussion is doomed to fail as one or both persons' rights, dignity, or autonomy are not respected. A good faith argument relies on persuasion to try to convince the other person, whereas a bad faith argument relies on other means, possibly including intimidation or coercion. Bad faith arguments in private life are best exited swiftly and are generally not effective at swaying hearts and minds. In public life, they are best exposed. As Dale Carnegie expressed it in How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I have read and is actually a pretty good book. It's the Sun Tzu of touching grass. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Fair enough. This adage appeared earlier as convince a man against his will. He's of the same opinion still. And Vindication of the Rights of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft. And generally, it is always best to begin a discussion and proceed with the presumption of mutual good faith until or unless proven otherwise. So this doesn't count for a debate, first and foremost, because debates are not fair and open discussions at all. Both people are coming into a debate to prove themselves correct, right? So if you're talking about just any engagement in sophistry during a debate, I think Destiny specifically has had almost no fucking good faith debates, maybe ever, you know? Like none of the ones I've seen. Like all of them could be, you know, if a single drop of poison, so to say, ruins the well, then they're all going to be bad faith, which I don't think that's the case. I don't think that Destiny's a massive bad faith actor, but seeing from his community this kind of thing. Also, Dale Carnegie, in How to Win Friends and Influence People, it should be explicitly stated that that book is about how to make sales. Winning friends and influencing people is about basically making yourself a better salesman. It's usually almost all of the things in that book are articulated that way. It's literally how to network, how to convince somebody you have a good product, how to convince somebody, or how to apologize to somebody if the product you sell them doesn't meet expectations. In the Dale Carnegie's book specifically, this is why being well read is the fucking best shit ever. I cannot believe I fucking can reference that book. I never thought I would bring this up in a discussion ever. In Dale Carnegie's thing, a long-lasting interpersonal relationship is valued. You know what I'm saying? Because you are both of a mind to do something together going forward. which is not always going to be the case in every interpersonal interaction and in every discussion. You know what I'm saying? So having argument here is bad anyway. The Cato.org is actually being disingenuous. This is bad faith by making an argument and a discussion parallel things. You know, arguments and discussions are not the same thing. Arguments are inherently conflict driven. An argument is an expression of conflict. A conflict can be resolved in several ways, but one of the ways is always by dominating the other person in the conflict, by, you know, not necessarily in such grandiose terms, but by defeating them, so to say, in the marketplace of ideas, which would be a domination aspect. You know, bringing somebody in and saying, like, you have this argument with me, go ahead, say your piece a little bit, and I'm going to fuck you up. That's fine. Like, arguments are conflict-driven things. I don't even know if really, he doesn't, but it doesn't really matter. But discussions are cooperative engagements. They're not conflict-driven. They're cooperation-driven. You are trying to literally find a way to a higher truth, so to say, or meet out small differences through co-discussion, literally, of a topic, co-talking about it, co-writing about it, something like that. Arguments and discussions are different, right? And I'm not talking about an argument in this case, which I'm just going to dismiss entirely the possibility that the second meaning of it, not an argument as a singular thing, like the actual collection of phrases, you know, the logical syllogism presented by one interlocutor, but rather the two-person or more multiple interlocutors literally arguing over something type argument, a conversation, a conflict-driven conversation where two parties are not in agreement. So, yeah, I guess I'll just read the good faith portion of this. I feel like I should have this up on the screen. I'm sorry about that, guys. A good faith argument or discussion is one in which both parties agree on the terms on which they engage, are honest and respectful of the other person's dignity, follow generally accepted norms of social interaction, and genuinely want to hear what the other person thinks and has to say. In many cases, they are working together toward a resolution that will be mutually satisfying. Good faith is similar to goodwill, in that you wish the other party well and do not intend harm. I think this is bullshit. I think Cato Institute is. I think they're working. I think these are going to be the or similar to the definitions that they're using. But I feel like this is mealy mouth and overly faithful. This is the shit that always is brought up by people that are in charge of stuff, where they're like, you should be humble, you should be kind, you shouldn't be like concerning or loud or any of that stuff. And it's because they don't want you to fucking upset the power balance. This is literally like, hey, accept that there's a power balance. That's what this is articulating. Accept that there is a power balance, and that upsetting it or tipping it in one direction or the other is an act of bad faith. Good faith is just assuming that the other person, first off, assuming that the other person is a good faith actor. You would have to, given these rules. Yeah, okay. Each party accepts the other person as a separate individual with autonomous free will. That's a weird thing to say. An independent mind, good and true intentions. This is all gibberish. And the right to have their own opinions and reach their own conclusions. Good and true intentions, that is literally subject to, that's a subjective thing. Good, completely. An intention, a true intention or a good intention is just like, that's absolutely subjective. I don't know. If a serial killer comes up to me in the middle of a dark alley and starts fucking pulling my liver out through my back with a knife, you know, his intention might be true and good, but is it to me? Will I see his intentions as true and good as he might, you know? And the right to have their opinions and reach their own conclusions. We see this sort of discussion on display in governmental bodies where representatives of opposing parties refer to each other as the loyal opposition or the honorable member and so on. A discussion in which both parties are operating in good faith can be worthwhile, productive, enlightening, and satisfying, even if no agreement is reached, and in the end, they agree to disagree. Being good faith, to me, is just being a fucking, you're a rollover boy. This is Rube. You're a fucking rube if you go out in the real world and you're like, I'm going to be good faith in all of my things. I'm never going to rock the boat. I'm going to assume the other person is right and is acting like in their best intentions and blah, 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 blah. That's rube shit. People are going to sell you bridges for the rest of your life. Just understand that about yourself. Bad faith, you know, this is just also like, it's articulating one thing, and then the explanations before how it happens are you know, a slightly different thing. So we have up here like you lack basic respect for rights, dignity, or the autonomy of the other party. You're trying to dominate or coerce the other individual into compliance or acquiescence of some sort. Like some of these things are not even necessarily antonymic to the traits described in good faith. These don't even feel like two sides of the same coin of faith, so to say. They feel like one method of behavior and then a slight bit of fucking spackle over top any like potential arguments to that. I would say this definition of good faith and bad faith is by its own definitions, bad faith, because it just presumes immediately that if you don't accept these two things, and if you're the kind of person that has accepted this into your head, then you can call somebody a bad faith actor and just assume all of these negative aspects about them. This is rat shit. Thank you, Cato.org, for never letting me down, because you are always a go-to source for this sort of shit. Yeah, so that's rat shit. Just straight up, that whole good faith, bad faith thing. I think in my mind, what I ever heard arguing in bad faith was just always basically, yeah, like you came in with the intention not to have the argument specifically, but to do some other stupid thing. Jackson Hinkle, as we'll be watching later, is a fucking prime example of that. Him, Haas specifically, they just want to go into the debate, not actually have a talk to anybody, you know, and read off their note cards and scream at the top of their lungs into their fucking microphones and generally be assholes about each other. Let's see if this is the case with Sam Seder. I've listened to a bunch of debates with him, and I don't think that's very much the case. He's not a pushover, you know, and I don't think specifically that talking over somebody during a debate is bad at all. That's just a thing that you have to do. You out there, listener, don't believe it's a bad thing to do. You will have people that you agree with online that you're going to be like, oh, fuck, no, it was good that he was just trying to get his point across. And when it's somebody that you don't agree with, you're going to go, oh, I mean, you're not even letting him say anything. It's a subjective thing. I think in the case, like, you can use Hinkle and fucking especially Haas as arguments in that, because those motherfuckers literally max out the input on their microphones and yell it to him. Like, you can watch the fucking peak meter be higher than everybody else's for the duration, and they don't stop. They unmute themselves. They don't pay attention to the moderation rules and moderated agreements. Like, yeah, they're absolutely bad faith actors, because they're first and foremost, they're propagandists. But also, like, I don't think you can really accuse them, now that that's established, of being in bad faith when they go, because it's established what they are. You know, they are bad faith actors. So if you go and you talk to them nowadays, you know, you're going to get what you fucking paid for, basically.
All right, Jesse. So you wanted to call him for a while. What's on your mind?
Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, thanks to Emma. She's going to come on my podcast, Blocked and Reported. I appreciate that. You know, it takes some guts to do that, given our disagreements. But I'm basically just like calling in because, you know, I committed to doing so. I'm a little bit.
You don't feel. You should not feel obligated whatsoever. I'm perfectly willing to. I didn't consider it a commitment. I wasn't anticipating it. So don't feel in any way obligated whatsoever.
I think it's okay. I do feel obligated. I said I would do it. I want to honor that. But I feel like Twitter causes a lot of division and drama, and I've contributed to it. I just think there's probably...
I would agree with that.
Yeah. I think there's probably a fair amount
I gotta say, I don't know anything about what's happening in this conversation. I don't know the background at all. I feel like the only thing I know about Jesse Singal is some memes that were circulated around this program and others, that his face, his Twitter profile picture or something like that was just one of the guys from BoJack Horseman, and that's all I know.
Including just how bad it is to try to ban youth gender medicine That was something I wrote about in May of 2020, before it was a national story. I also think there's like probably some areas where there's like a little bit of disagreement, but they tend to be edge cases. Just stuff where there's probably going to have to be some, debate and compromise. But I think at the end of the day, I don't know. I've been like writing about science for a decade, and
what do you mean by use gender medicine?
But here's the thing.
Clarify that, please.
Jesse, I just want to make something clear. I don't care where we agree on. That is, I can't tell you how irrelevant it is to me what we agree on, whether it's in the context of trans stuff, whether it's in the context of any other politics. Wholly irrelevant. I don't care what kind of person you are. I don't care what your belief system is. None of that is relevant.
This is if you follow the Cato Institute's beliefs in bad faith, yes, he's just being bad faith here by saying he doesn't really give a shit about Jesse Singal as a person, which I think is fine. If that's the standard for whatever the bad faith thing is, then I don't think that bad faith has any value when it comes to conversation with other people. I don't think that that's an interesting aspect even in describing the conversation between them. I wouldn't care at all. Oh, this is a bad faith conversation. What? He's just saying like, I don't give a shit about anything but the specific facts at hand. Fine.
Reason why I think you are toxic and at best extremely unhelpful in this area is that you distort the importance of this issue, and are so fervent at pointing out this minutia.
Run, Jesse. They've almost caught up with you.
That I consider minutia. In the face of what is actually happening on the ground. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. That's not you, but it's an analogy, and it's an extreme one. But that's
just because we have limited time. Could we just keep this to stuff I've written that you have?
No,
that you disagree
because
based, fucking based. So just even listening to this conversation from the outside, Jesse called in because he's upset about. He was actually conciliatory about being toxic on Twitter. Fucking Sam seems to have agreed with that he was. So they're both on the same page, literally, that Jesse is toxic on Twitter. That seems to be the contention they want to talk about. He's being toxic and he's overblowing trans issues. So now Jesse, as far as I remember in this conversation, is trying to bring it back to other things that he's written, 10 years of science writing. I want to broaden this instead of the niche thing that we're actually talking about. Why don't we broaden this past the scope of discussion, which is that's typical. That's rat shit. That's just a rat thing to do.
Because no, it's
and then he's like, can we talk about other stuff than the specific thing? We're limited on time. I want you to stop talking about this bent specifically. Talk about something else.
Not even there's a specific no. Because it's not even that there's a specific thing that I take issue with, because that in some ways is exactly what the like indicative of the same problem. And I will do this. It's like, I know that you feel that you are just writing stuff that you think is accurate, very technically accurate, that your issue was in insisting and in highlighting this clip that no one had seen really until you promoted it. That in the words saying that when Matt said your lies were cited by Republican attorney generals, for whatever reason, when we did this email exchange and you put out a little clip of it, you said conservatives. I was confused by that because maybe I thought you were talking about something different. But my issue with what you do, okay, is best summed up in this analogy. And again, this is an analogy that's extreme, but it makes the case, is that back in 2004, there was a writer who wanted to argue, and you remember what was happening in 2004, 2005 in Iraq. Maybe it was before your time. I'm not sure.
I remember.
Who wanted to argue that there is nuance in the context of the torture debate. And by, you know, sort of showing this, showing that within the context of the torture debate, there were nuanced instances where the idea of saying that torture is bad is inaccurate because there were nuanced instances where that was okay. And I think the headline was in defense of torture. And it was published on the Huffington Post at a time where
that's completely grotesque.
So yes, I'm sure I use this example because I knew you would think it was grotesque. But why is it grotesque? Because this writer claimed that, like, look, I don't want to talk. I'm not trying to talk over you, but can you just give me something to latch onto? A problem you have with my work, not with the work of someone else. Well, I'm explaining it to you. You don't want to engage in it. I will explain it to you.
He's constructing the metaphor here.
Okay. The reason why it's grotesque to me in that instance is because
unironically, I think Jesse Singal is kind of a little. He's a little fucking rubber band spined guy. I think he deserves to be talked over. You're calling into somebody else's show. Obviously, they're going to be on camera. If you have something to say, you should fucking say it. All right, like if Jesse Singal is actually going to say anything here that's worth hearing, I'm excited. But he's basically just sticking out of the conversation the entire time. He's not. I would just talk over Sam, and just if I like that was on ongoing in a long metaphor about like a particularly graphic thing, I would just said, Sam, can you get to the end of the metaphor and say what you want to say about me? Just get to the fucking point. Like that's the thing. If the whole thing about this and all these goddamn comments under this video is just a bunch of people stumping for this guy who's too big of a fucking wuss to stand up for himself on a program he called into to defend himself on and started off being conciliatory about his toxic behavior, like just as a third party bystander here who is admittedly on Sam fucking Seder's side. Yeah, I don't give a shit what Jesse Singal has to say.
It's one thing to sort of like create a thought experiment where you could argue there are instances where torture is a legitimate choice. But it is another to do it.
Torture is not a legit, but torture is
I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying that you are, Jesse. In fact,
we have
no, Jesse.
Also, Jesse Singal seems pretty like ready to go off onto this other tangent anyway. Stop talking about this ongoing metaphor. I don't relate to it, but I am going to start talking about it and expanding upon it.
I am using torture as an example so that you will understand my problem with your writing. I know that you think torture is abhorrent. That's why I'm using this as an example. There's no doubt in my mind that you agree with me totally on this perspective of torture. But let me finish so I can explain to you
my actual work.
I'm going to
my work.
Okay.
Okay, you'll get to it, I guess.
I will. I promise. This is
Yeah, at this point, I don't know if Singal is just stupid or if he's legitimately like his best tactic is just trying to stretch this out as much as he can. Because it's just like you're clearly not derailing Sam. You're not saying like, Sam, get to the fucking point and talk about it. He's not like Singal is bad faith. He's not engaging with the conversation that he started under the terms of the person he started the conversation with. Like you're in someone else's house. Why don't you fucking buck up, mister? And if you're going to talk over him a little bit, talk over him a lot and actually say something worth saying instead of just like mealy mouthing about stuff you already said you didn't want to talk about so that we're extending this fucking already overloaded and overlong metaphor that is just based. I already know where it's going. The people in fucking that were saying like, hey, torture actually has some nuance and it's good back in 2004. That's you. They're getting over specific and navel gazily and talking about whatever I think is youth gender affirming care. They're going to get overly navel gazy and overly direct and overly specific about it. And they're going to try to justify it through the most technical possible means. And while also blowing it up and reporting. It's called over-reporting. It's a tactic in journalism. You over-report stuff to get more attention on it. You just run the same story 10, 15 times. Your local TV station over-reports intentionally to constantly make crime seem like it's a worse problem in wherever the fuck it is you live. I don't care where you live. This is the standard operating procedure for broadcast news people. Why? Because it scares the fucking lead-poisoned boomers out of their fucking minds, and then they will always tune in to see the latest crime at night. It's just the new version of the obituaries, over-reporting. That's what he's accusing him of. I guarantee you. I still have to watch the rest of it.
Done by now. In promoting that, in that instance, in a moment when torture is on the front pages of the news, regardless of whether there was merit to the philosophical argument about the value of torture, which I would agree, and I'm convinced that you would think is abhorrent, period. What that article does is it gives cover for people who were promoting torture in places outside of Huffington Post. The writer is basically positing that they have no impact on this public debate, because I believe that if you are writing in this manner and you are promoting ideas in this manner in public, then you must take responsibility not just for the specific content as the letters, but its impact and how it's heard and how it's used in a political struggle that is going on.
So we're just finally getting to Sam's initial argument with Jesse, which Jesse called up to ask for anyway. We're not even... Sam has never, during any of this, entertained that he was going to talk about youth gender affirming care. It was literally... And Jesse Singal started to open the conversation, from what I heard, talking about his own toxicity on Twitter. So we're still just getting into the very beginning of this conversation, which Singal has been fumbling the entire time. I'm guessing he doesn't spend a lot of time talking on video. The way that his voice sounds and his kind of inability to keep a straight tone the whole time really kind of hammers that in. And
I suggest that when you say the Republicans, AGs, who cited my material in The Atlantic, did so and twisted it in a way that it meant something different than it did, that at the very least, you would realize that you are being used as a means to attack trans people and to attack.
But that's why 4 days. But that's why 4 days after they put that brief out, I did a Substack post saying.
Well, who gives a fuck? That's the worst possible. That's the worst possible response to that accusation. Republican AGs used your work in order to craft policy. They used your work in order to craft policy. Well, after they crafted policy at some of the highest levels of government, I released a Substack titled "Come On" by Jesse Singal. Are you out of your fucking mind?
I'm glad that you did a Substack post. In fact, that same torture guy has a whole page on his, at that time, I think it was Medium, as to why this is being misinterpreted. But do you know how many people saw the HuffPost thing versus saw that Medium thing? This is what we call in sales a funnel. I don't know why I say we, because I'm not in sales, but I read enough about it.
You're saying that a lot of people saw this fairly obscure brief over a technical aspect of Affordable Care Act enforcement. That's your argument, that was like a viral Huffington Post article?
Are you suggesting in any way, Jesse, that your work hasn't been cited over and over again by people saying, like, even the liberal Jesse Singal says that there's something problem here?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes the amount of the umbrella that your reporting covers, right, at a certain point, does not equal the sorry, I distracted myself and fell off track. The amount of like exposure that your writing has in terms of power, right, that becomes less of an argument when you have already bypassed exposure and gone straight to the literal halls of power. There are small magazines, right, that you've probably never heard of, or maybe you have, that are circulated in Washington, D.C. and in Arlington and all of those areas. Even in your own hometown, if you keep a lookout, there are their technical manuals, or not technical manuals, but I forgot there's an actual term for them, but they are small niche publications that are traded amongst the power brokers in certain areas, you know, and it's how they sort of write about their own communities and what their interests and their concerns are. Those don't have a widespread. It doesn't matter. It's not a viral Huffington Post article, of course, but every member of the Supreme Court has read that article. If 15 people read one article, and every single one of them are members of the literal Supreme Court and Supreme Court associate justices, all the way down the paralegals. All 15 of those people, you know, are those major players. I don't give a fuck about an article that disagrees with those suppositions that goes out to 1.5 million people. Like, that is the worst. That's the stupidest possible argument you could have made. Your work is being cited by people that craft craft policy, and in this case, AGs, attorneys general. They enact legislation on behalf of the powers that be. They are masters of their own executive branches. In certain places, they have extreme authority to interpret laws and enact laws and, you know, pursue legal consequences for this, that, and the other. You know, they have a lot of leeway and authority to do that. Those people are reading what you say and crap. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck if every single human being in California has read that your Substack that says, come on. Like, I don't give a shit, because you already fucking did it. You fucking skipped you passed go.
I mean, so the problem is that, with all due respect, I explained to you in the email, like, exactly what they did. My article said...
You didn't even say... When I said Republican AGs, I specifically asked you... Now, you didn't publish this part of the email. You only published, like, the first line of it for whatever reason. But I asked you, when I wanted to clarify this and catching up on it, what was defamatory? Because I think your words were straightforwardly defamatory about Matt Leck saying that your lies were cited by Republican AGs. And then you wrote back something about a tweet exchange you had with Matt about conservatives. For whatever reason, you wouldn't acknowledge this Republican AG thing was.
No, but we're referring to the same legal document. And I pointed
well, I didn't know that because you didn't say anything about that legal. I can read the email right now if you want to clarify that.
Sam, could I?
Because it seemed really manipulative of you to pretend that you had explained this to me and saying, you know, when whatever the tweet storm that you were trying to get going, when in fact I said Republican AG and you said conservatives, some conservatives.
Sam, I think you're a little bit trying to talk over me because I'm making a very basic point here.
Okay, go ahead.
Respond or not.
You have the floor.
Okay. I emailed you. I pointed out that this brief said...
No, you did not use the words brief. I did not.
So I think this might be stuff that people are getting butthurt about, but always do this. Always jump in. If somebody is misquoting you at the start of their argument, just fucking interrupt them. There's nothing wrong with that. Jump in and do it. Literally. That they do it in court. Objection, like he's fucking not reading off the document. You know what I'm saying? And these are the same people that are going to be nitpicking your words later. If you didn't say that, fucking jump in. I would interrupt him too, and especially like this guy's kind of slimy.
Jesse, that's why.
I mean, Jesse, if you want to get specific, you got specific about the fact that a viewer wrote in and said that you cited one part of this written document by that woman, what was her name, Jamie Reed, that you didn't cite. Yep. And so if we want to be specific, then be specific about what you said to Sam in this email.
Okay, let me read this because you're now claiming that you said the word brief or you said the word attorney because I asked you.
Hey, sorry, we've been talking about the same document the whole time. You can either.
Well, I didn't know this.
Why the
I didn't know this. Jesse, I don't know your stuff from Adam. I don't care. I said I'm unclear. Let me make this clear.
You don't know my stuff.
I'll tell you what. We'll put this up because we'll put this up.
Oh, you do know my stuff.
No. We will put up our exchange because you're mischaracterizing our exchange right now, just like you did on Twitter.
I know, but you won't let me. I'm happy to explain it.
Well, no. I get it now. because I've had to go back and try and understand what you were talking about.
Now you get it. Okay.
But you are, even in this call, mischaracterizing our exchange. And this is what you do. This is my experience of you. You keep saying...
Sam is fucking getting heated here. He's getting a little too heated.
He's going to do this and this and that. And you're the one who creates the confusion. I don't know if you do it on purpose or if you do it because you're trying to obscure some agenda. I don't know. I don't care.
I think it's more that I sort of cleared this up 4 years ago, but none of you guys have read that post, and you keep referring to it. And that's why I'm just trying to get
I don't care about that post.
30 seconds. No, I know you don't care about it, but I'm just trying to get 30 seconds to explain what happened, which you can choose not to grant me that 30 seconds, but just...
But I mean, like, he's constantly talking. He's constantly talking. But he's not saying anything. This Jesse Singal guy is a fucking worm. This dude is a worm built, start to finish. I would be getting fucking irritated as shit if I was Sam, too. Like, you're on the program. You're mealy-mouthing everything. I'm already fucking pissed at you for some other shit that happened before, right? So we're not friends. This is not a friendly conversation. We've been bogged in conflict very clearly. And yeah, we're fucking scrapping now. And then the Singal, he does keep talking. He keeps saying shit, but he doesn't fucking say anything. Well, I know, I got my do now. Be fucking prepared if you're gonna call into a fucking radio show and say what the fuck you want to say in a clear, concise way, and then don't let fucking Sam interrupt you. Just talk over him. Like, be a fucking adult. If you want 30 seconds, literally talk for 30 seconds, and don't take no for an answer. If he interrupts you, like I said was a good interruption earlier, fucking just keep talking anyway. Like, you're fucking arguing on the internet. It's an internet TV show.
I'm going to give you 30 seconds.
All right.
Okay. They cited my work to say that gender medicine doesn't help trans adults. My work described that gender medicine as life-saving, and it quoted multiple trans adults who found it life-saving. So you can't read my article.
How late in the piece, Jesse? Have you heard of the principle of journalism, where essentially you're supposed to...
Emma.
No. How late into the piece?
Top of the piece.
How late into the piece, Jesse?
Jesse, I'm looking at this section that you sent me about, like, for sure, trans-affirming care. This paragraph. There's 3,500 words in front of it. The section that you clipped for me.
Yeah. So you would think.
Jesus Christ. Give him 30 seconds. Give me 30. You can't give this guy 30 seconds. If he writes like he argues in the fucking in this program. He's just jibber jabbering. Like, quite literally. 3,500 words. It's called burying the lead, by the way, Emma. That's what he's doing. He's burying the lead just all the way down there. And like the point he's trying to make is all the way at the fucking ass. Well, it might not be specifically burying the lead in this.
It's the more obvious point, just basic rules of journalism.
Well, wait a second,
I know you're a journalist.
I want to hear this.
No.
Was it 3,500 words in, or was it at the top of the piece?
Yeah, which part?
It was 3,500 words into a 12,000 word piece. So it was near the top.
That's literally a fucking quarter of the way.
Word piece. Okay.
Right. As opposed.
Where did you put the thesis? Where did you put the thesis in your college paper? Where did you just articulate what you were trying to talk about? Oh, just like fucking 3,500 words into it. 3,500 words, by the way, is right around 7 pages. That's right around 7 pages, unspaced, 1 inch. I know, because I have to write for a living. That's literally 7 fucking 8x10 1-inch margin pages until they get to that point, right? That's insane. If I started reading 3,500 words, if I started reading it, it would take me approximately 6 or 7 minutes, maybe longer, to actually get to it. No, I think that's even wrong. I think it's about 30 minutes. It would take me about 30 minutes to get to the end of it because, yeah, it's standard. Like 1 page for me is about that long. Or it takes that long. So that's an insane amount of content that fucking, like, honestly, like, that I got the rat out of 10 on fucking Destiny and stuff too. Cause I watched like 2 seconds of his thing. He had like a 15-minute video, and then like almost nothing of it was this segment except for him saying like, "Why let him talk?" Like, fucking whatever. But honestly, if you do let him talk, we've already proved he's a fucking rambler. He's a rambler. He's a rambler, a fucking a little shit weasel talking about, well, I just need to understand. Dude, just say your fucking piece. Call Sam a liar. Say whatever the fuck you have to say and get the fuck off air. Like, he's talked cumulatively for a shitload of time and said absolutely fucking nothing. And if this is how his piece is, he's already lied about the piece. He's lied about the piece. It was not at the top of the piece. That's not even close. If you told your editor at a paper that you had something at the top of the piece and it was not in the first graph or at least the second graph, you would be set on fire, right? He said a 12,500 word document. That, for me, reading is in the ballpark of an hour and 15 minutes. If I narrate that out, hour and 15 minutes. It's actually the rough length of a lot of my short stories. That is an insane amount of content in general just to go over. That's a lot of fucking writing. And if you have something buried that deep in it, that is not the primary facts of the shit. And it's definitely not near the front by any measure. And I'm just trying to give you scale because, if it was like 3 paragraphs down, 3 graphs in a 750 word story, okay, that's still buried a little bit, but we're still on the top of the fold. All right. We're still on the front page. You can connect the dots between the title and this, but that is ancillary information buried deep inside some. If it was important and you managed to get 3,500 words between that and the start, you're crushingly untalented as a writer to boot, which I wouldn't be surprised. If he writes like he talks, it's going to be endless. It's going to be fucking endless.
Have you not in your work
outside of 25%
emphasize certain specific cases that are outside of the trend of the overwhelming data that shows that gender affirming care for youth is effective and helps reduce suicidal ideation and is important, and that the sister myth essentially is a small edge case? Have you not focused on that a disproportionate amount versus the overwhelming other elements of data that I just described?
I have no fucking
what
basis
you
for
just said isn't true. There is an overwhelming evidence.
There is. I'm looking. Okay, have you read the Journal of Pediatrics and their clear results on this front, where they looked at children, youth,
you're talking
over
about a
5
Jack Turban
years?
paper. I've written two lot. No, so
written.
You're talking about Christina Olson's paper.
Always beware of a man that eats his teas.
Christina Olson's paper took a group of kids who transitioned early, social transition.
Yep.
She found that 93% of them 5 years in were still in that socially transitioned role, but none of them were diagnosed with gender dysphoria. So you can't compare that to the question I'm interested in, which is whether these treatments help alleviate gender dysphoria, because we don't know if the kids in Olson's sample had gender dysphoria.
You're using outdated terminology to talk about children who are already socially transitioning and showing that that is effective, and they're consistent after that 5-year period in their transition.
This is just an objective matter of fact. What you just said,
this is pedantic. Do you believe that? No.
Got him. God, that fucked him up. She called him a pedant.
Overwhelmingly effective with children. Do you believe it?
I am with the 5 European countries who have looked into this question closely, and all of them are like, we don't know yet. We need more data. So no, it's not established.
Okay.
It is established.
All right. Well, so you don't believe it.
No,
but you just changed the question that she asked you.
I'm not
There's
sure
no
yet.
doubt. Listen.
I have to go
we are aware. I am aware that the Dutch protocol is no longer being used in these 5 European countries, and that they're looking at more data. I'm also aware of hundreds of situations where Europeans and Americans have different protocols, and part of that process in which there is some broad agreement is that doctors work this stuff out. You clearly have an agenda, and you recoil at the idea that people suggest that you have an agenda. Now,
that's painfully obvious with the guy.
You think that your agenda is founded in a science that is not available to other people. And I'm suggesting, I have no problem with doctors.
It's totally available to you guys.
No, you're not. It's available to me now.
It is completely obscure to us because, as you've said on your show.
Sorry, you guys are talking can you just talk one at a time? I can't hear my city speaker.
Because, as you've said on your show, we're doing this just to A, make cash, and B, seen as like more righteous than other people. I've listened to at least part of one of your shows. And so I know that you said this. I know you said this, Jesse. I know that you feel this. Now, I do not attribute to you some type of like intent. I don't know that you're making cash off this or what it is. I just see what the impact of what you do is, and I think it's reprehensible. And that's it.
Well, but I've already explained to you guys.
No, I'm not just talking about limited to.
You raised of that was misinterpreted, and you changed the debate into, okay, you did say that, but it wasn't high enough.
Hey, listen, Jesse, I didn't say anything in the beginning. I wouldn't have known about this, and no one would have known about it except for your insistence that it was straightforwardly defamatory, that you had been cited by Republican AGs, and that what had been cited was lies. And you said to me in an email it was straightforwardly defamatory. I get news for you. You don't know what the word straightforwardly means, and I'm not sure you know what the word defamatory means.
Look, I never claimed to be, it could just be you guys are smarter than me on this stuff, but do you think the
I mean, it could be.
Brief accurately describes my work? That's all I'm asking.
What sentence?
I don't know.
The sentence that there's no consensus that transition alleviates gender dysphoria. Do you think that accurately describes my
quote? Was that quote from your?
Pull it up. It's right there. We've been.
Was that quote from your piece?
Well, Jesse, then let me just ask you directly once again: do you believe that the established standards of care in the United States are effective and should be implemented to help children as they begin to transition in their youth?
The standards of care say that kids should get like 1 to 2 years of therapy before they transition. So that might be too conservative, but it's something like that.
Okay, so what's the issue?
So then what's the problem?
Those are the new standards of care. The question is whether people are following them.
Okay, well, you know what?
I doubt Emma.
But the evidence that you've shown, the Jamie Reed whistleblower, bro, has been discredited over and over again, and you wrote a whole write-up about that.
She hasn't been discredited?
She has not been discredited?
Hold on, a couple things. Guys, one thing at a time. Emma.
Wait, she hasn't been discredited?
Can we finish it?
Well, can I just be clear on what you said?
I'm happy to talk to you.
She has not been discredited.
Let me finish my point.
Okay, wait.
Okay, let me finish.
You just said something. I just want to. I was talking over you. I just want to make.
Yeah. This whole fucking. This is a weasel act. You didn't let me finish my point. You did. You're talking over me. I'm being bullied. I'm being bullied. You're talking over me. Shut the fuck up. Jesse Singal doesn't have anything to say. His whole thing is mealy mouth, wheedling around terms, trying to sneak in like highly specific little factoids here and there that they're doing great. They're all double checking. They've got the whole fucking studio double triple checking whatever the fuck it is he's saying. And yeah, whenever they call him out, now we weren't supposed to be talking about this. We're talking about that. Like this is rat shit. That's weaselly little rat shit. And Jesse Singal should be fucking ashamed of himself. I don't know how this is going to end up.
I'm happy to address this. I just want to finish up the thing about the standards of care because I think that's super important, actually.
You didn't say this. I'm just curious about what you said just a couple of seconds ago on this show.
I'd like to finish.
Hey, dude, I got a big guest that's coming up in a minute.
Yeah. Has Jamie Reed been discredited or no?
Emma, it sounds to me that you think
that's a yes or no question. That's a yes or no question, and it should be either answered in yeah, but or no, but or no, that's just a flat yes or no. That's a flat yes or no question, and you can hear that pause where he's trying to work out how to walk around it. This guy is a fucking rat.
Kid should get 1 to 2
How
years of
has Jamie Reed?
Why is he talking about that other shit? She said, "Is this person been discredited?" Well, Emma, what I think we really need to be talking about, blah, 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 blah. Like, dude, this guy is just a fucking slime ball.
Who was not intimately involved.
She has not been discredited.
Oh, that's interesting to me.
Finally.
That's interesting because, we've got to run, but people can look this up. There have been lies over and over proven that she has put out there, which you took at face value.
Emma, when you come on the show, can we just get a little bit more specific about the SSD stuff?
Honestly, dude, I mean, look, I want to engage in good faith. And we have now had this conversation, And to be honest with you, like, I don't back down from anybody, but I really think you should just have a trans person on, or an activist or someone of that kind, because I cover a bunch of issues on this program. We cover politics on a daily basis from different perspectives. And
okay, so you're backing out, though, is what you're saying.
Sure. I to be honest with you,
based upon your original complaint to me, I will, as a boss, I will suspend her if she goes on your show.
We had a back and forth over email. We couldn't.
You called
find
the manager.
Time, and
you didn't get the response.
I don't want to give this more life.
You're backing out. It's unfortunate. I was
if
hoping
that,
to have
Jesse,
you on because
Jesse, if that's what you want to hang your hat on, have a good rest of the week, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, we appreciate the call, Jesse.
Yeah, couldn't care less. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, that guy's a fucking prick. That guy's a fucking. I wouldn't want to talk to him either if I was them. Let's see. Let's conclude this out. But I definitely got to say, finishing this up, this majority report segment that people have been suggesting is indicative of Sam Seder's inherent bad faith in all conversations, and that he bullied poor Jesse Singal, who just sounds like a mealy mouth fucking just a weaselly dude. He's just a mealy mouth weaselly dude. And they were having it out on Twitter, and that guy called into the show and then got basically fucking steamrolled because he was half ill prepared, and also because I think he was disingenuous about the reason he wanted to call in the first place, and just didn't start. He never said anything straightforward. I think the arguments in the comments are like, oh, they never gave him a chance. They never gave him a chance. But every time he did take a chance to start talking, he would start answering a different question. He would not go into the subjects at hand. So in the Cato Institute's argument is you are acting in bad faith if at the start of a conversation you are endeavoring to dominate or basically like win the conversation or coerce the other person into a new way of thought. So fundamentally, and they include argument and discussion as both of these things. Now, if you're having a discussion as rules for polite discussion, I would say, yeah, that's good faith, bad faith. If I was going to have a discussion with someone, if I invited them on to talk about guns, and then when they got here, I just started like laying into them about like, why did you release a video 3 years ago about bump stocks? Like, do you like give a shit about dead kids and stuff like that? And using explosive, extreme language in my descriptions, and you know, trying to like backfoot somebody who didn't anticipate being in an argument. In that case, I would say like, yeah, that's bad faith. But if you are heading into a debate, heading into an argument, you understand the situation at hand, then like you can't really argue for bad faith. I think the thing with these people is they think that they're going to go on the majority report, be given 6 minutes, whatever, 5 minutes to just say their rattle off their talking head part, you know, like they would on Fox News or even CNN. They want to rattle out whatever the fuck it is that they've memorized, and they want to say that shit. They want to fucking stir the pot, they want to dirty the water, and then they want to go without being challenged. Every time Sam Seder has somebody on the show, he's basically like the king of debate bros. Every time he has somebody on the show, he checks them on things he disagrees with. If they're, you know, saying something that's incorrect, he'll correct them. There is, and I said this earlier, there's no point in allowing somebody to just lie in a conversation. I don't care if it's polite to not interrupt them. If somebody's just saying the wrong thing, I would just interrupt them and say the right thing, which he was trying to do in here. And this Jesse Singal guy is just basically playing the victim the entire time, cringing and creeping around the set, not answering questions. Really just a distasteful individual, unironically. Like, I would not want to be at a dinner party with him.